Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving into the metadata around Colleen Hoover's Never Never series and, well, what looks like a pretty simple three-part story on the surface. It actually turns into this really fascinating case study in, like, publishing strategy.
It really is, yeah. At first glance, the sources say, okay, three-part novella series, three primary works. Sounds totally straightforward.
Right, simple enough.
But our mission for you, listener, was to kind of dig into that because the data immediately throws up this puzzle.
It is.
The sources also list 9 total works in the series. So how do 3 novellas, balloon into 9 different things being sold?
Okay. That is the deep dive right there. How do you get from 3 to 9?
Exactly. What's driving all that? Fragmentation.
So to figure that out, I guess we first need to look at the basics. The 3 original novellas that form the spine of the story.
Yep. Let's establish that chronological core and see how people reacted when they first came out.
All right. So book 1, Never Never, published back in 2015.
Mm-hmm. And this is what sets up the whole premise. Charlie Wynwood, Silas Nash, best friends, memory loss, the whole hook.
And the reaction?
Pretty huge, actually. The sources show 140,971 ratings. That's a massive engagement. And a solid rating, too, 3.77.
Okay, so strong start. And you mentioned publishing strategy.
Yeah, and you can see it immediately. 31 editions listed for just that first novella. They were clearly pushing it right away.
31 editions for part 1. Wow. Okay. That definitely sets a big benchmark for the launch. But what happens next is kind of interesting, right? With book 2, Never Never, part 2.
Also 2015, later that year.
The audience size drops off a bit, which, you'd sort of expect for a sequel, down to around 67,000 ratings.
Correct. Fewer people rated it. But here's the thing that jumps out.
What's that?
The rating actually goes up significantly. It hits 3.94.
Wait, it went up from 3.77 to 3.94 for the second part.
Yeah.
Huh. That's kind of counterintuitive, isn't it? Usually, maybe the rating stays steady if the less interested readers drop off or it dips slightly.
Right. But this suggests the opposite. It seems like the people who did continue were super invested. They loved it even more.
Okay, so the core fans were really hooked.
Seems like it.
Yeah.
And that quote the source mentioned, "Never forget that I was your first real kiss."
Yeah.
That points to the emotional intensity these readers were responding to. That dedicated core really pushed the rating high for part 2.
Okay, that makes sense. Strong narrative momentum carried the core audience through. So then we get the conclusion. Book 3, Never Never, Part 3, that landed in 2016.
Yep, 2016. So the whole initial trilogy wrapped up within about a year and a half.
And the metrics for the finale.
Here, the rating dips again, back down a bit to 3.47, and the engagement also slows slightly, around 57,000 ratings.
Okay, so a finished 3-part arc, 2015 to 2016. Strong start, peak enthusiasm in the middle, slight cool down at the end.
That's the picture painted by the individual novellas.
But this only gets us to 3 works. We're still trying to find the other 6 to explain that 9 total works number.
Exactly. Those 3 are just the narrative foundation.
So after they finished releasing them one by one, what happened next? Where did the other 6 come from?
Well, this leads us right into that publishing complexity we talked about, the compilation effect.
The bundled version?
Precisely. The sources list an entry labeled Book 1 to 3. It's just titled Never Never, like the first part. And it was also published in 2016, right after Part 3 finished.
And this is all 3 novellas together in one package.
Correct. One single book, physical or digital.
And how did that version do?
Oh, this one exploded.
Yeah.
In terms of sheer reach, it got the most readers by far. Over 206,000 ratings recorded in the sources.
Whoa. Okay, significantly more than any individual part.
And look at the edition count.
Let me guess, higher.
Way higher. A staggering 64 editions listed for this compilation. Compare that to what? 31, 21, 19 for the individual parts.
64. Okay, so this became the main way people encountered the story later on, the mass market version.
Absolutely. It became the dominant format. But, and here's the really interesting contradiction in the data.
Go on.
If you look at the overall rating for this super popular compiled version, it's the lowest score in the entire series structure.
How low?
A distinct 3.29.
Wow. Okay, wait. That is a big difference. The parts were hitting 3.77, even 3.94. Right?
Exactly. Part 2 hit 3.94.
But the version that reached way more people, the one with 64 editions, averages only 3.29. How does that work?
Well, think about who was reading each version. That lower rating on the big compilation compared to the higher ratings on the individual parts, it suggests something fundamental was different.
Different about the readers or the experience?
Probably both.
Hmm.
The readers who followed along part by part back in 2015, 2016, they were likely the dedicated early adopter fans. They drove that high 3.94 score. They were bought in.
Okay.
But the compilation, with its huge reach and all those additions, that was likely targeting a broader, maybe more casual audience, people picking it up later, perhaps expecting a standard-length novel experience.
Ah, so maybe the mass market readers felt what?
Yeah.
That stringing 3 novellas together felt a bit disjointed. Or maybe the pacing felt off compared to a regular novel.
That could definitely be part of it. Or perhaps the novella format itself, even bundled, just wasn't quite as satisfying for readers expecting something else. It essentially diluted those initial high fan ratings with a much wider, possibly less invested audience.
So the format, the way it was packaged, really shaped the experience and the resulting rating for that huge audience.
It really looks that way. It raises that classic question, doesn't it? Was this strategy optimizing for, like, critical reception among core fans or for maximizing commercial reach?
And the data here seems to point pretty strongly towards commercial reach driving that compilation strategy.
I'd say so, yeah.
Okay, so the 3 original parts plus the big compilation gets us to 4 works. We still need 5 more to hit 9. What else is in the mix?
Well, beyond that main compilation, the sources show the series was also packaged in other ways, likely for different markets or formats. That accounts for the next few pieces.
Like international version.
Exactly. We see an entry listed as Book 2-3. It's titled Asla Asla.
Asla Asla. This sounds not English.
Right. The source snippet provided is definitely foreign language, looks like Turkish, based on the text. Pirin boyzen aşık olma hissini hatırlamak ist. This was published later in 2019.
Okay, so a Turkish edition possibly compiling the last 2 parts.
Seems likely, given the Book 2-3 label. And the engagement recorded in these sources is tiny, just 153 ratings. Shows it was probably a very targeted release, not aimed at the English language market data we're primarily looking at.
Got it. So that's work number 5. We need 4 more.
And this is where we find the hyper-serialization format.
Hyper-serialization, like even smaller chunks.
Apparently so. The sources list 4 distinct entries labeled Never Never, Saison 1, Episode 1, then Episode 2, Episode 3, and Episode 4.
Saison 1 episode. That sounds like French and like a TV show format.
It does, doesn't it? All published in 2016. This points towards maybe a digital-first release, perhaps some kind of subscription service or web platform, probably aimed at a French-speaking audience.
And how did these do? Engagement-wise?
Almost negligible in the data we have. Episode 1 had only 7 reviews listed. Episode 4 had just 39 ratings in total. Really, really small numbers.
Wow. Okay. And the ratings for these tiny episodes?
They actually declined pretty steadily across the 4.
Yeah.
Started, around 3.46 for Episode 1, but dropped down to 2.95 by Episode 4.
2.95. Ouch. So breaking it down that much further didn't seem to resonate well, at least based on these metrics.
Certainly doesn't look like a successful format from this data,
What?
but if you add them up.
Let's see. The 3 original novellas, the big compilation, that's 4.
Yep.
The Turkish Asla Asla, 5.
Right.
And then these 4 French episodes.
That brings us exactly to 9 total works.
Okay. So the puzzle is solved. That initial 3 primary works was just the starting point. The other 6 came from compiling, internationalizing, and serializing.
Exactly. It was a complex, multi-format strategy designed to, well, test out pretty much every publishing channel available.
So this whole strategy, taking a multi-part story and then slicing, dicing, and repackaging it for maximum reach, is this something unique to Never Never, or do we see this elsewhere with this author's work?
Oh, it's absolutely characteristic. If you zoom out and look at the other related series mentioned in the sources, this pattern repeats. The 3 primary works idea is often there, but the fragmentation, that seems to be the standard playbook.
Really? Can you give us a sense of the scale for other series?
Sure. Look at It Ends With Us. The sources say that's 2 primary works, but 3 total works. So 1 main alternative or sequel prequel, packaged differently.
Okay, pretty simple there.
Then slammed. 3 primary works, 4 total works. Again, fairly contained. But then it ramps up.
How so?
The Maybe series, that's listed as having just 2 primary works,
Okay.
but 7 total works.
Whoa, 7 total products generated from just 2 core books. That's a lot of repackaging.
It really shows the intensity of the strategy, doesn't it? And the most extreme example in this data set is the Hopeless series.
What are the numbers there?
It started with 3 primary works, but it eventually grew to, get this, 13 total works listed across all the various formats and editions.
13. From 3 originals.
Okay. So, yeah, when you see Never Never with its 3 primary and 9 total works,
Mhm.
It actually sits kind of squarely in the middle of this author's typical approach.
It confirms that the strategy isn't just about selling a book. It's about taking a piece of intellectual property and optimizing it across, well, every platform, format, and market they can think of.
That's exactly it. That initial description, 3 novellas, that's just the, let's say, the literary truth.
Yep.
But the 9 total works, that's the commercial reality.
It really highlights how, when you analyze popular fiction like this, you're not just looking at a story. You're looking at a pretty sophisticated product development and marketing strategy.
Precisely. The metadata tells a fascinating story all on its own.
So for you, the listener, you should now have a much clearer picture, not just of the basic story of the Never Never series, but this whole intriguing structure behind its publication and how people reacted, which you can see in those shifting ratings and especially those huge edition counts for the compilation.
Yeah, maybe this leaves you with a final question to think about. Given that massive difference in editions, 64 for the compiled version versus maybe 20 or 30 for the parts, and the lower rating for that most popular version,
Yeah.
does the way a book is packaged and pushed to the market actually matter more for its broad mass market success than the sort of internal quality metrics, like those high ratings from the initial dedicated fans?
Packaging versus inherent appeal as measured by core fans.
It seems like the format that reached the most people here was also the one that, well, got the most divided reaction critically, if you look at the average rating. It's definitely something to ponder the next time you see a big series get repackaged or bundled.